Hello there, people of the internet. Viewer request. I was asked if I could only pick like what would be my top 6 firearms that I would never get rid of in the entirety of my collection. And I tell you what, this was a really hard list to do. I know I've done things kind of similar to this in the past, but it was like picking one gun. But having to like do a top 5 or a top 6 in this particular case, because the viewer specifically asked for a top 6, in this particular case, like having to pick more than just one is what made it so difficult, because I had options now. And options are what makes decisions kind of a little bit more looming. So this right here is not one of them. This right here is a BRNO Czechoslovakian Mauser, an 8mm. She's been sporterized. This is just here for catching your viewer's eye, I guess. So let's get started on that list. Alright, we're starting off kind of lame, I know, but the list will get more exciting. If I could only keep one, it would probably be an AR, just because of the amount of calibers and whatnot that you could very easily swap out in this gun. Like, swapping calibers in your AR, there's a huge amount of calibers out there that you can swap out for very minimal amounts of work. You know, like my Mosin sling I got on this. I'm sure somebody's going to call me out in the comments below. If I could only have one, AR, but that is definitely on my list of 6 that I would never get rid of. I would keep one of my nicer ARs. Probably not this one. This is my Coyote gun. It's been used a lot. It's kind of beat to hell. This is something you guys have seen on the channel plenty of times, so I guess this is a good representation, but I would take an AR, and that's what I would keep. Okay, kind of in the same vein, I would probably keep my AK if I had to pick 6 that I would never, ever get rid of. The AK 7.62x39, it's good down to like 400 or so yards. I mean, it can go beyond that, but for like the average shooter, which I very much am an average shooter, 400 yards is that breaking point, and that's honestly beyond my capabilities of shooting anyway. 7.62x39 is a good, powerful cartridge that's plenty capable of taking out whatever it is I need to take out here in the state of Florida. Especially since in the jungles of Florida, you're not really shooting past 100 yards unless you manage to come across an open field or something like that. External magazines, it's got fairly good ergonomics in comparison to some other firearms out there. So I guess I'll tell you to take that with a grain of salt, because some people think the ergonomics on the AK suck. External magazine, it can hold as many rounds as you want. You can get, like what I have here, my hunting mag. This is a 5-round mag. Or you could get like 100-round drums or standard capacity mags or anything like that. Scope mount on the side, so you can mount a scope to this thing. Like, I normally just use a 3x9 whenever I take this out hunting. It has served me extremely well. It's just a good universal do-everything rifle. And the fact that it's a piston system means that it will run for a very long time without needing to be cleaned or maintained. The AR is better at keeping like dirt and debris and funk out of the rifle than the AK is. However, the AK is better for longevity purposes, because the AR will just gum itself up over time, and it gets to the point to where you have to clean the rifle in order to keep it going reliably. And if you find yourself in a situation where you do not have the equipment or means to clean your rifle, then you might end up like our boys in Vietnam, where they had no means to be able to clean their rifle, and they were dealing with some serious issues. Okay, so that is our AK, that is my pick. Now we're getting into the fun things. This is an 1872 open-top revolver chambered in .38 Special. Whenever I show this off, I get tons of people that tell me, "Nah, man, that's a black powder gun. That's not a smokeless powder. You can't shoot smokeless powder." And that this is a modern-made .38 Special. This is made by Cimarron, I do believe. And it takes modern .38 Special ammunition. You don't need to focus on using just lead or something like that. Like all the people who focus on the black powder aspects of firearms, they tell you, you know, they're designed for lead, use just those, and etc., etc. This is not a conversion. This is nothing like that. This is a .38 Special revolver. So that being said, I don't necessarily know how much I trust Plus P inside of it. I know modern metallurgy is quite good, but this is still an open-top revolver. But that being said, this right here is one of the most, like, by a huge margin, the most accurate revolvers I have ever shot. Like, ever. This is the only revolver, only handgun in general, I'm able to take out to 100 yards and make regular hits on target with. It really is an incredible piece. And as far as I'm concerned, this is, like, out of everything in my collection, this is probably the one handgun where I'd be like, okay, if I had one handgun and nothing else, it would probably be this. And I get that that's probably a bad decision, just because there are better options out there in terms of realistically using them. But man, I could not give this one up. This is one of those where I just could not. I just could not. I literally could not. I would give up everything else that I own, handgun-wise, and keep this one right here. Alright, another rifle I'd never give up. This is my 1944 production M1 Garand. Still has the bar sight on it. This right here is an absolute dream rifle of mine. This is one of those guns that I would just, like I said, never give up. 30-06 self-loading rifle in block clips. It has the Garand ping, which is something we all know and love. That's kind of what the rifle is known for. If this rifle did not have the ping, I wonder if it would be as popular as it is today. Granted, it doesn't have the updates like, say, an M1A would have in terms of external magazine, better gas system, etc., etc., but this one does have an updated gas system inside of it, so I can fire modern-made 30-06 from this rifle no problem without any worries of bending any operating rods. This is one of those that I would keep in my arsenal and I just would not get rid of. A, because it's an absolute dream rifle of mine, and B, because a self-loading semi-automatic 30-06, there's a lot that you can do with that rifle. This rifle could be pushed into a lot of different roles. So this is one of the ones on the list that I would keep forever. Alright, up next on the list of things that I would definitely not get rid of, this right here is my Ishapur 2A1. This is a 7.62 NATO rifle, and its chambering is the main reason why I would never get rid of this thing. 7.62 NATO is one of those cartridges that I don't think it will ever, like, disappear within my lifetime. So it's just one of those things where I can be like, okay, I can always get ammo for this, assuming that laws don't prevent me from doing that. And here in the US, I don't really foresee that happening. 10-round external magazines. I'm sure that I could find larger magazines for these. I mean, who knows what they make in terms of aftermarket mags. I've never really bothered to look. But 10-round external mags, this right here does have a short bolt throw and the cock on close action. It's got all the benefits of the fast Lee Enfield action. I do not own any semi-auto 308 rifles. And even if I did, I'd still probably go with a bolt action, only because I like to reload and hand load my own custom loadings I want to call it 308, but I know a lot of people differentiate 308 and 7.62 NATO just because they have different pressures and whatnot. So if I'm loading 308 at different pressures, does that mean that it's no longer 308? I'll let you guys talk about that in the comments below. But essentially, I will hand load my own custom 308, and oftentimes I will load it to about 30 pressures to preserve brass lifespan. And this way I can conserve, like, components like gunpowder, and I don't completely destroy my meat whenever I go hunting. Here in the state of Florida, things don't get really all that big in terms of wildlife. So a 308 on, like, one of our whitetail deer, especially if you hit it like center mass, it kind of turns the insides into what looks like a watermelon if you were to shoot it. It's definitely not pretty, and it's just too much power if you're wanting to conserve as much meat as possible. So I do undercharge my 308 hunting ammunition just for my specific purposes. And if I have undercharged ammunition, I cannot hope for that to cycle through a semi-automatic. So that's where the bolt action comes in. That's one of the big benefits of having a bolt action. You have way more options whenever it comes to reloading and whatnot. For something like a self-loading rifle, you need a specific pressure curve and a specific amount of pressure in order to reliably cycle that firearm, and that's just not the case with a manually operated firearm like this. Alright, last but not least, this right here is actually not the one that I would keep, but I have, well, I don't have it with me here at this place that I'm currently filming, which is why I don't currently have it on camera. But I have a Mosin-Nagant 9130, just a standard refurbished run-of-the-mill Mosin-Nagant. However, it was purchased for me by my father like years and years ago, back whenever I was in middle school, and I shot the absolute hell out of that rifle. It is pretty much shot out. I definitely got to counterbore it because the bore is basically gone. I used corrosive ammo. I never cleaned it, and I shot probably in excess of 40,000+ rounds through that thing. It was an insane amount of ammo that I sent through that thing, just shooting it basically every single day. It was awesome. It really was awesome. But just because of that family sentimental value of that being like my first real rifle that my father had bought me, I had 22s and I had like a couple of 410s and whatnot. Actually, I only had one 410 at the time. But I had other guns, but this was the first real rifle that my father had bought me, and it was my first real gun. And man, I grew up shooting it. I really did grow up with that gun in my hands. It was incredible, the amount of rounds I sent through that thing. That was back when you could get ammo like for dirt cheap. I remember I got one of those 440 tins, but I got it in the box, like the big wood box that was 880 rounds of ammunition. And I used to be able to pick those up for about $60 a piece, and I would spend just literally all day blasting rounds out of that thing. I remember one time we tore down a house in a demolition project, and we brought the house, like the leftover remains of the house, out to the gun range. And I basically literally shot a house down using a Mosin because there were bits of the house that were like still standing and whatnot. And I would just shoot so much ammo through that rifle. That's one of those rifles that I'd never get rid of just because of that sentimental value that I have. Like, it's not worth the amount of money I'd make by selling it is just not worth the loss of that sentimental value. Especially because I can go out and do something else to make that money. So that is my list of my 6 rifles, or 6 firearms, I guess, that I would never get rid of in my collection if I could only pick 6. Now, like I said before, this was a very hard list. Oh, I wanted to put my Carcano on the list, my Troop Special model that I got, just because it is such a lightweight, light shooting, handy little carbine. And I got a 6.5 Carcano loading that is just on point with that rifle. And I would love to keep my 6.5 Jap. That is such a nice gun as well. And I'd love to keep something scoped as well. I got a TOZ 122 in 308. I really thought about keeping that over my number 1, or my Ishapore 2A1 over there. But I elected to do the Ishapore 2A1 because of those external 10-round magazines and the fast bolt-action system. So that's my list. If you have a list, let me know down below, and, well, I will judge you as I'm sure that you guys are judging me. Thanks for watching. I appreciate your time. Like, subscribe, share. Description below has a link to all sorts of stuff. Go check it out. You guys go off. Have yourself a fantastic day. I'll see you on the next episode. Since I've done this. Bonnie and Clyde be damned. Poor man's Garand. It's a shame that bolt-action shotguns aren't more mainstream.